Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Really delighted to have two guests with me today. One gentleman that's never been on the show before, and that's Marius. How are you, Marius?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. And James, I think a lot of our viewers have seen you before. James, it's been an awful long time since you've been on the show or we've podcasted together, but I'm delighted to have you back on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back. I hope everybody's keeping well.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we're here today initially to talk about, well, what I see is a very, very interesting player that has been linked to Arsenal. And the reason I came across the link was actually an article that you wrote yourself, Marius, saying that there's been some, pretty strong Arsenal links to this player. And it's Teun Koopmeiners, I believe you pronounced it.
Yes, perfect. Yes, well, correct.
I mean, it seems very interesting because obviously it's a very young player. I believe he's 22, is that right?
Correct, yes.
But he's a defensive midfielder. Yeah. But what I found extremely interesting when I sort of had a quick look at his statistics, he scored 11 goals this season until it was obviously cancelled from 23 games, which is very, very interesting for a defensive midfielder. I mean, what can you sort of add initially about the type of player that he is on the pitch, or what he's technically sort of good at?
Well, it's a really stable player, I think. He's really good in his passing game. Physically, he is really strong, and it's all a very dependable player. I think he played close to 140 games in total for the club. I can hardly remember a game where he was really bad. So he's always scoring, like, if you like give him a grade, or it's always like he plays a 7 or 8. He's never really bad, so it's always pretty stable. And when it comes to the goals, it's at least indeed a lot of goals, but it's a lot of penalties and free kicks. No field goals. Yeah, so that's the.
I did sort of consider that, but he's a bit of a dead ball specialist then.
Exactly. Yes, definitely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, his kick is perfect. Corner kicks, free kicks, penalties. He really has a good pass, a good shot. Yeah.
That's excellent. Okay, well, it sounds really interesting. And James, I mean, obviously you being based in Amsterdam as well, and him playing for AZ, what do you sort of think about the way that the team set up at AZ, as opposed to the way that Arsenal are playing at the moment under Arteta, and how you could see him fitting into the team, the way that we play?
Well, just to give listeners and viewers a bit of background information, AZ Alkmaar are really reaping the benefits of investing heavily in youth. Quite some time ago, they took a decision to really invest in youth, and it's really reaping benefits. It really is. And it's no coincidence that the young players helped them to finish what was joint first before the Eredivisie was curtailed. And the thing about Koopmeiners in particular is his attitude. His attitude to want to be captain at 22, to want to be able to take responsibility, to realise that this isn't just an armband that gets given to you. It brings with it extra responsibility. You know, he's always wanted to have the leadership role, and he's got it. And even when you hear him talk, I think it's similar in Matthijs de Ligt in the sense that here is a young man, but yet you would think it's a man of 30 speaking. With his, in terms of vocabulary, what he actually says, how he explains things. And so I wanted to start by giving the listeners and viewers an idea as to the youth policy that AZ have heavily invested in is kind of reaping the reward after some time. And Arsenal's has just kind of been filtering in.
Oh, that's a shame. Are you still there, James? That's a shame. He's frozen. Well, Marius.
Yeah.
With regards to the like I was sort of intimating towards earlier as well, regarding the way that AZ set up as a team, what sort of formation do they play? Is he sort of part of a? Is it like a 4-2-3-1, for example? Is he part of a dual pivot at the back? Or
it's 4-3-3, and then he is the backward player in midfield.
Right.
So they play with one midfielder, not technically in front of the defense, but when, for example, the central defenders like Ron Vlaar, which is also a familiar guy in England, I think, has the ball, the first player they play the ball to in midfield is Koopmeiners. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's really interesting because I think that our new manager, Mikel Arteta, is very, very much looking at going to hi, James. Glad to have you back. I was just saying to... No problem at all. I was just saying to Marius that AZ apparently sort of play this 4-3-3 system, and I think that is definitely the way that Arteta wants to move forward and play a 4-3-3. But as it stands at the moment, because of our midfielders being quite weak, he hasn't really got the personnel to actually carry out that formation substantially, which is why we're playing the way we are at the moment with a back three, back five, whichever way you want to look at it. So it's interesting to me that Koopmeiners actually plays as part of a midfield three.
He does, and as Marius also said about his being a dead ball specialist. I remember watching an interview with him on when he was away on youth international duty, and they were saying, your penalties and how you how do you become such a penalty killer, as they say. How do you do what you do? And he said, well, I don't really let people kind of get into my head. I've been doing it. I've done it 1,000 times before. I just know exactly what to do, and I managed to have a good kick in my foot in terms of knowing where I want to put the ball and being able to put it anywhere in the goal. And he's extremely confident as well. And you touch on Arteta there. I also think I said manager John van der Brom also needs to have a little bit of credit. Not the current manager, sorry, the previous manager. I think obviously the current manager is Arne Slot. Van der Brom is now manager of Utrecht. But I also wanted to make the point that the youth that was allowed to flourish, I think Van der Brom also deserves a lot of credit. Do you not agree, Marius?
Exactly. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Well, we've had a question from Anthony Wyman. Thank you very much for watching, Anthony. He said that which price do you think Arsenal would have to pay for Koopmeiners, and do you think we need Koopmeiners when we've already got Xhaka? And I'll go to you initially, Marius, if you could sort of include that question initially but also add a bit more detail to how you came across the information initially, which obviously made you write the article. How strong do you think the links are with Arsenal?
Pretty strong. The information comes from first hand. I cannot say too much about the source.
No, of course. I wouldn't expect you to do that. No, of course.
No, it's first hand. So it's actually true that they are interested in him. I don't know if they made a bid already. I'm not sure about that, but they are interested in him. And they contacted his agent. Mm-hmm. So they are really looking at maybe making an offer. But looking at value-wise, I think you have to go around 20-25 million euros.
Yeah.
For a start.
Which is about, I mean, according to Transfermarkt on the internet, obviously the details there, that's about right. It says about 13 to 14 million pounds on there, which would equate to around that sort of figure, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'll move to you, James, on to the next part of Anthony's question, where he said, do you think we need Koopmeiners when we've got Xhaka? From what you said, it's really whetted my appetite to see more of him as a player, because it sounds extremely interesting the way that you said that he leads the team. I mean, Xhaka, is he a similar player to Xhaka? Yeah. Would you say that he's a technically superior player to Xhaka? Or
I think he's a lot more confident of a player than what Xhaka is, and I think he's a lot more aware of his responsibilities than what Xhaka is. Xhaka also had the armband at Arsenal, and Koopmeiners in particular is aware of the responsibility that brings. But I think the best thing to do would be to hopefully buy Koopmeiners and then maybe loan him back to AZ for another season. And then see how he gets on. And similar to what we've done with Saliba at St Etienne.
Yeah.
Because AZ are also going to be in the Champions League qualifiers. And this young group of Koopmeiners, Calvin Stengs, Bardu, they're looking forward to playing at that level. It's not as if they've reached that level when they're going to leave. They also play together at Dutch youth international level, so they know each other. They know each other and the ins and outs of each other's game. And I think they're looking forward to testing themselves at a high level in Europe, especially in the qualifiers. So I think what the best thing to do would be to buy him, hopefully, and loan him back to RZ for another season for him to gain even more experience. Because the difference between the Eredivisie and the Premier League is vast. Going away, obviously you have difficult away games here in the Netherlands. Away to Utrecht is quite difficult. Some tough teams have tough away days when they go away to Vitesse. But it's completely different, going away to likes of VVV Venlo, among others, and then all of a sudden going away to Sheffield United in the Premier League and going away to Chelsea, and you've got to the most important thing about young players in particular is that they play. I've been fortunate, as listeners and viewers will know, I've been interviewing professional players and managers for nearly 4 years, and I've spoken to lots of players and managers at all different levels, including a lot of Dutch players, and they all say that when you make the move abroad, the most important thing is that you play. People need time to adapt, of course, but I think with the mentality that Koopmeiners has, and I've watched him in his pre-match interviews and post-match interviews as well, sounding a lot wiser than his actual current years of only 22. I think he's got his head screwed on. He's not going to just go straight away, at the first club that comes. He understands the importance of playing regularly. And also, as I said before, I've been an Arsenal supporter for more than 30 years and attending games from where I live in Amsterdam, roughly about 5 a season. And we've got to start to look at characters. We've got to come away from buying names.
Definitely, yeah.
We've got to start to look at characters, and we've got to start to build. Unfortunately, Marius, the fan base that Andrew and I are from, it used to be rock solid. It used to be brilliant. It used to be, even as a fan base, we didn't win much, but we were always so proud. And now we seem to have a younger generation who have kind of, if they don't see the
social media generation.
Well, I don't necessarily want to define it as that, Andrew. All I wanted to do is make the point to Marius that us as a fan base, I've been supporting the club for 30 plus years, you yourself as well. We Arsenal fans always used to stick together, and it was always the class of respecting your fellow Gooners' opinion and having a chat and having a laugh. And now, if you give an opinion, it's as if somebody doesn't agree with you, they want to quite literally shoot you down. And it's strange, really, because
there's still some of us left, James.
I remember an Arsenal fan base that never used to be like that used to take pride. Yeah, thankfully. As I say, you hope that things will turn around, but it's a little bit different to the RZ fan base. One of my best friends here in the Netherlands is also for RZ, and he's not also from the local area as well, Alkmaar and Zandstreek, and the fans of RZ are a lot more patient, if you like, with their young players. When they see somebody break through, or they have the open day, and they kind of, as soon as the player makes their debut, they kind of follow him and give him support. And Arsenal fans don't really tend to do that. So there you see the similarities with the two clubs. But Koopmeiners is a very special player, and I think he'll go on to have a fine career.
Yeah, I really hope so. Well, he sounds extremely interesting. And Marius, what else can you tell us about his personality as well as a guy? Because we do need some real strong leaders on the pitch, and he sounds very promising in that respect.
Yeah, he's a natural-born leader. I think ever since the moment he got into the team 3 years ago, he came straight from a second team. He replaced an injured player on midfield, and from that moment on, he really showed himself to be a leader, to be a dependable player, and he really is exactly as James said. He's really like James said. He's really like a leader, and he's a lot.
Oh, that's a shame. We seem to have a bad connection at the moment from Amsterdam.
Can you hear me?
Still there? Yes, you're back. Great, thank you.
Cool. Yes.
Great. So yeah, you were at the stage where you said he came into the team about 3 years ago, and that's when we lost you.
Yeah, no, and from that moment on, he showed immediately that he was a really player that had leadership in him, confidence. He was a dependable player from the start. And like James said, he sounds a lot older than he actually is. He's only 22, but even 2 years ago, when another player was still captain, he was already giving all the guidance in midfield. He's tactically really strong, so he can put players in their place. I don't know if he can really do that at Arsenal from the start, because Arsenal, of course, is a different type of club, a lot bigger. So I don't know if the fellow players will accept it if Teun Koopmeiners from AZ comes in and give directions to other players that are really internationally well known. So I don't know how that will work out. But he's really a player that has the ability to do that, for sure.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, to be fair, I think we're moving much more in the direction of younger players in the team as well. And I mean, you probably heard of Matteo Guendouzi, who's he may be on the way out because of his attitude doesn't seem to be quite as good as we'd hoped at Arsenal lately, and he's been a bit frozen out lately after a bit of a falling out apparently with the coach. But he has been accepted into the team from when he joined not this season, the last season. He was pretty much an ever present right the way through, and he's only just 21 now. But he was welcomed into the team with open arms at that point. Now, I don't know whether you are particularly familiar with Guendouzi as Marius, but he obviously adapted and came straight in and played an awful lot of games when us fans, when he joined, thought that he was going to be pretty much in the under-23s for a season or two. But he wasn't. He was put straight into the team, and it was a case of sink or swim with him. Now, do you agree with James that at the age of 22 that he could actually come straight into the team, or do you think it would be best for him to, if we were to sort of go ahead and buy him, that he would be loaned back for a season? Which do you think that?
Ooh, it's a really difficult question, because over the past few seasons we had Vincent Janssen and Alireza Jaanbaks moving to Brighton and Tottenham Hotspur, and I really thought those guys would really be ready to at least start regularly, but they completely flopped, both of them. Koopmeiners is a completely different player. I have to say that. If he's really ready for Arsenal at the moment, I think I have to agree with James that maybe another season at AZ would be the best for him, especially competing at Champions League level. Gain a little bit more of experience on that level, and also breaking through to the national team, because just before the Corona break, he was included in the Dutch national team as well. And I think if he plays a couple of matches there, getting used to that level of playing, I think he would have a lot more experience to get into the Arsenal game, into the Arsenal team.
Well, that's another thing that's extremely positive, because I saw by looking at his background that he'd made it big time within the under 21s national team. So that's really interesting that he actually made the full national team before coronavirus outbreak. So that's another positive thing. We've had another question, and I can go to you with this, James. It's from Anthony Wyman again. He said, it's put to you, Marius, but if you can both answer. He says, do you think he can be better played as a left LCV than a midfielder? So LCV, I'm not familiar with that abbreviation.
That's central defender, left central defender.
Right, okay. Do you think he would be better as a left centre back than a midfielder?
Well, the good thing is he's versatile. He's versatile at a very young age.
Has he played much then at centre back as well?
A season. He played there for a season. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because of injury of another player. I think that was not this season, but the season before. But that was a bit of a problem because he didn't want to play there. He said,
okay.
In my academy, I was taught to play as a midfielder, and I think I should play a midfielder in case of emergency. I want to play it back, but if not, I want to play as a midfielder. And I think they also made some agreements with the coach Arne Slot before the start of this season. that he would play in midfield and only play at the back if there was an injury or another kind of emergency.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So is he a left footer?
Yes.
I think that it's very good that
Go on, James. Sorry. Go ahead, James. Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought Marius was going to continue there. I just wanted to add that the good thing is that he's versatile. And Marius makes a great point about Johan Bucks and Vincent Janssen, who went to Tottenham and Brighton respectively. And, you know, when Johan Bucks and Janssen, they were both doing excellent work for AZ. And, you know, there were similar links to different clubs. And I remember in the case of Vincent Janssen, you know, I think reading on, a Dutch news site once, he said about, you know, the club really selling it to him, that, you know, he was going to be part of the first team plans, that he was going to be training on a regular basis. And that's what kind of made his decision. And as I say, the most important thing for young players is that they play. And as Marius just touched on as well, you know, that Koopmeiners has the confidence at the age of 22 to say, you know, not that I don't want to play there because I'll help out the team, because he is first and foremost a team player, but also being aware that, you know, this is, you know, in the academy, in his natural position, this is where he wants to play. Can improve the future.
It sounds great. Sounds a very, very interesting player. He really does. Now, first things first as well. Do you think, Marius, after obviously having close contact with the player himself and obviously coming across the story, how do you think he would take it if he was actually, if Arsenal were to make an approach and make an actual offer? Do you think he would be interested in joining Arsenal?
I think it will be interesting joining Arsenal for sure, but I think it all comes down to the plan that they have with him. Will he be on a regular basis? What do they see with him? Do they want to loan him out for a season? Is he going to be part of the first team right away? What are his perspectives? So I think that's an important part of whether or not he's willing to join Arsenal. And there are a couple of other clubs that want to sign him as well. I think 2 in Italy and 1 in France, which he already turned down. So yeah, he has a couple of other options, but I think Arsenal for sure is always.
Which team was that, Marius?
There's 2 in Italy. I cannot.
The French team he turned down.
The French team.
They're in the top 4. I cannot say the team. They're in the top 4. They're in the top 4 of France.
Okay, no, fine.
That's really interesting.
It's fine. If
and it's not Paris Saint-Germain.
I fully respect that. I was just curious. That was all.
Yeah.
No, that sounds very interesting. But I can totally understand the situation, obviously, with the Champions League coming up next season as well. But it sounds to me like it would be an extremely good idea to do exactly what we've done with William Saliba, and you know, if we were to go ahead. But I think I would very much like, by the sounds of it, to progress with Arsenal. I don't know whether you know, Marius, much about what's actually going on at Arsenal at the moment with our new manager Mikel Arteta. It's the first time in many, many years I have been really excited about the future for Arsenal, if I'm honest. We're having a bit of a revolution under our new coach, and he's going with the youth. We've promoted a lot of youth players, very exciting prospects from our under-23 academy. And things are looking extremely positive moving forward. And it seems to me that Koopmeiners will be an extremely good addition to that. But I'll probably be a good advocate of, as I say, of loaning him back. But what you need to do, we need to keep in contact, Marius. I'll teach you about what's going on at Arsenal at the moment, and you can sell it to Koopmeiners, because I really want him to come to us rather than to those clubs in Italy.
That would be good for
So you need to be our you need to be our way of. Sorry, go on, James.
Yeah. And also, Marius, I don't know if you know, I interview professional players and managers on a regular basis. So if he's looking for an interview that he wants to speak to somebody, then you can pass on, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
We can all we can all help each other, scratch each other's backs, can't we? Now, Marius, I really appreciate your time. Now, you've got a choice here. I'm going to have a quick chat to James before we sort of close off about Arsenal's next 4 games. We've got a really, really tough run in the next 4 games of teams above us in the league, and we desperately need to be getting into Europe ourselves next season. So you are very welcome to join us and sort of and stay on the panel if you wanted to. If you wanted to leave it there, then you're more than welcome to as well. But I'll leave it up to you, Marius.
I'll listen, and I'll learn a little bit more about Arsenal already. So
fantastic. Yeah, I'll be great. I'll be absolutely grateful to do that because
and also,
go on, James.
Yeah, and also feel free to chip in as well.
Yeah.
If you want to give an opinion or something, this is a team effort, so you're more than welcome.
Excellent. Well, Anthony Wyman has put a message on there saying Koopmeiners was talking with his agent in the centre of Alkmaar about his transfer plans for this summer. So that's really interesting. So Marius, I'm going to put a lot of faith in you to actually put a good word in for Arsenal on our behalf. Right, well, just to fill you in there, Marius, before the Premier League was stopped because of the COVID-19, we had won the last 3 games leading up to till it stopped, and then since the restart, we lost the first 2 games. First one was understandable against Manchester City, but second one was a bit disappointing against Brighton. But since then, we've won the last 3 games on the trot as well. So we've won 6 games out of the last 8. However, we've got a really difficult run coming up now with Wolves, who are going really well in the Europa League, as you probably know, and in the Premier League, clearly. They're nearly at the Champions League qualifying places. And then we've got Leicester, Premier League champions, obviously 3-4 years ago, but they're in the top 4 at the moment as well. Following that, we've got our local rivals, Tottenham, which is a big grudge match, like AZ versus Ajax, I can imagine. And then after that, we've got Liverpool. They're not done quite so well since the restart. However, they are the champions. So, James, it's going to be difficult, but we've got momentum on our side. And I think Arteta has done an excellent job of rotating our squad at the moment, keeping everyone relatively fresh. We've got the new Maradona at right back in Cedric Suarez. He had the most incredible 10-minute debut
It was a great finish against Norwich.
It was, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
How do you see the next 4 games, James?
Finish. Was a fantastic finish.
It really was. How do you see the next 4 games panning out?
Well, I'm going to start with a cliche. We have to take one game at a time. I'm going to start with a cliche and say that we have to take one game at a time. This has been a very long and very arduous season in more ways than one. We've had to deal with we won our first 2 games of the season. Would you forget? We won away to Newcastle and at home to Burnley. And then we go on a bit of a dry run, a difficult spell, and then, lose to Frankfurt and sack a manager, and then appoint a manager who is highly inexperienced. And now we appear to be on a good run. And I just think we have to take it one game at a time. This is I just hope that we can finish as high as we possibly can. Hopefully with some silverware as well. And I'm also convinced as well, Arteta is still learning his trade. There is a world of difference between being a number 2 and being a number 1. An absolute world of difference. And, we took this decision to appoint a manager who had no previous managerial experience. And so
we've got a bad line with James.
Got to learn very, very quickly. And for Brighton and Danny Cowley
It's okay. You're back now,
Hello?
James. You froze for a little while. Carry on.
Yeah, strange. I don't know what's up with the internet
having difficulties,
in
which is a real shame,
Holland,
James.
tonight. I have no
Real
idea.
shame.
And yeah, strange. And as I was, can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll carry on then. As I say, we've got an inexperienced manager who's got to learn very quickly, and obviously I will support every Arsenal manager like I've always done. But having spoke to the likes of Graham Potter, when he was at Ostersund's, he's now at Brighton, and Danny Cowley of Huddersfield, continuity is such a rare thing in football, and the longer you stay with a club, you know exactly what you need in terms of personnel, in terms of character. And we've got a tremendous opportunity this particular summer. I mean, we're talking about Koopmeiners, and the thing that springs out for me is this character. We are finally, after 5, 6, 7, 8 years, starting to look at character rather than the actual name, because the character that Koopmeiners has is very commendable, and belies his years. And this is the type of character you want in a football team. So it's good that Arsenal are finally looking at these things. But I think we've got to just take it one game at a time. Wolves are having a tremendous season. They've made more progression in Europe than us. They're potentially into maybe the quarterfinals of the Europa League. And away at Molineux is going to be difficult. I think it might be a draw tomorrow. My prediction is 1-1.
I'll be delighted with a draw, if I'm honest. I'm confident against Leicester and Spurs because although they are still above us in the league, they're in terrible form, and whilst we're in really quite good form at the moment, and I'll be much more confident going there than I will be to Wolves. But I think the one thing that we've got on our side with Wolves is that they very, very rarely rotate their squad very often. I think their manager is very reluctant to do that. He likes to play the same team every match as much as he can. As long as they're not injured, so it rotates very, very. And with the way that the games are coming every 3 days at the moment, it maybe we might be a little bit fresher than them because of the rotation that Arteta has been doing. So I don't know. I'm clinging to some vain hope against Wolves. I'm probably being very optimistic, but I'm more confident against Leicester and Spurs than I am against them at the moment.
Well, I think the derby is going to be very interesting. The derby in particular. Yes, we've got a midweek game against Leicester, but the first derby at Tottenham's new home. They had a bad result yesterday against a very good Sheffield United side. Okay, they're not in form. And for me, there's two main objectives for the remainder of the season, and that is to finish as high as we possibly can, and then to hopefully win a little bit of silverware as well. I mean, my personal prediction is I think we're going to finish 8th, and I don't think we're going to. And I'd like to think we'll win the FA Cup, maybe more heart than head. But we're looking at not having any European football for the first time in many, many years. And I've been saying for a while, if you take away the financial aspects, we have to learn to win in Europe again. We started to do that last season where we reached our first European final for 13 years, winning in Valencia, winning in Naples. And it's very, very promising. But I just think Arsenal supporters in particular, they've taken European football for granted. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to see many European games through the years. And I remember going to the matches against Monaco, against Ostersund's, against Rennes. And before I even got in the stadium, people saying, we'll beat these. They're just a pub team. When Rennes are an excellent side, Ostersund's were being managed by an excellent manager. And Monaco had then topped a group with Bayer Leverkusen, Benfica and Zenit St. Petersburg. So I think the arrogance of some fans to think that if it's not Barcelona or Real Madrid, they're not interested. So I actually think that a year without European football, without commitments, have a good, solid domestic season under Arteta, then I think that would do us the world a good long term.
I'm worried about that though, because they're already talking about ditching one of the cup competitions next season, the League Cup, which I'll be really disappointed with because I love seeing the younger prospects playing in that, And if we don't have the Europa League either, don't get me wrong, it would help the first team no end. However, it'll be a real shame because we play a lot of our younger players in the Europa League qualifying stage, and they'll miss not only that but the League Cup as well potentially. So that's going to be a big problem.
When you say to do away with the League Cup, do you mean the actual body itself, or do you mean the club?
No, the actual Premier League. They're talking about actually, or the FA. They're talking about getting rid of it for next season because of the.
It would be a huge shame.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, well, understandable, but it would be a huge. It would, but it also the fact that we've only the League Cup we're talking about, Marius. We've only won that competition twice. Okay. We won it in 1987, and we won it in 1993. We haven't won it since. And everybody says, "Oh, it's just a League Cup, not interested." But it's a trophy. Yeah, it's a trophy, and it was the first trophy back in '93. It was the first trophy I ever saw Arsenal win. I wasn't there in the stadium. I watched it on TV, and it was brilliant. And you know, I think people playing reserve teams and not respecting the trophy. You know, there's a saying in England that says, you know, if you play in Europe, there's 4 trophies available to you, and if you win one, you've had a good season. And you know, I just think that the arrogance to think, oh, not interested in the League Cup, not interested in the Europa League, perhaps. You know, we haven't won a European trophy since 1994. You know, 26 years ago since our last European trophy. We've had, obviously being based in the Netherlands, Ajax reached the Europa League final in 2017. Marseille reached the final in 2018. There's always one team that reaches the final that nobody expects. And I very much doubt that the same won't be the same this season. But I just think a good, solid domestic campaign, you know, and also I think it would help Arteta as well, because it does bug me a little bit the way that people seem to think that being a manager is just simply a case of writing down 18 names, sending them out on a pitch and watching them how they get on. I recently spoke to Robbie Simpson, who manages Chelmsford City here in England. And when I spoke to him, he said to me, when he decided to become a manager, it really took him aback as to how hard the actual job. A lot of people really understand how hard the job actually is. So I think that's a solid season of domestic experience could really help Mikel.
James.
Oh. Would you like me to repeat it?
Hello. Yeah, you're back.
Can you hear me?
You're back. We've got a really bad line.
So I'll repeat it from the beginning. First off, Marius, my apologies for the connection. It's not deliberate.
No worries.
No. But I'll just repeat what I was saying then before we move on. You know, I recently spoke to Robbie Simpson, you know, former English player, now managing Chelmsford. Yeah. And he said to me that before he became a manager, you know, it kind of took him aback and surprised him how tough the actual job is. And I think there's a lot of fans in particular who don't really understand what the job actually entails. And we've got a very inexperienced manager who we all support. We want him to do well. We will give him time, but he's got to learn quickly. And as I say, just take it one game at a time. And I think a draw tomorrow night, I reckon.
That'd be good. I'll be happy with that. I'll be really happy with that. Apparently, Carol Chalamet has just said in the comments section that Gabriel Martinelli has now signed a new long-term deal, apparently. Which, in that case, it'd be one of the best weeks we've ever had for a long time. It'd be amazing if that's the case. I hope so, Carol.
Yes, indeed.
He's a very, very exciting player. Have you heard of Martinelli over in Holland, Marius?
No.
He's a very exciting young player. We got him from the Brazilian 4th division. I know we picked him up last summer for about £6 million. He models himself. I'm not saying don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's anything like him at the moment, but he models himself very much on Cristiano Ronaldo. Wants to be one of the best players in the world, and he's very, very exciting. I think so far in half a season he scored 11 goals. So yeah, very, very positive if that's the case that he signed a new long-term deal. I think we will leave it there because we're having some streaming issues, which is a real shame. But Marius, I'm absolutely delighted that you came on today. You've been fantastic.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I do hope that you'll come on again in the future. And
sure.
If there's any more news with regards to Koopmeiners or anyone else, please let me know, and we can come on and talk to each other again.
Definitely, yeah. I heard the name of Wout Weghorst as well. That's as a rumor.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So if he comes
let's
around,
hope so.
Yeah, you can also give me a call.
Fantastic.
Really hope so.
That'd be awesome. That really will. And James, I really appreciate you coming on again. It's been fantastic talking to you again.
You're more than welcome. I do apologise for the stream issues. Marius just touched on Wout Weghorst. He would be an excellent buy. Really, really would be an excellent buy because not just his goals ratio, but also he's also overlooked at international level. He should be playing. And, he's physically strong, a great work ethic. I would love us to sign Wout Weghorst. I really would.
Have you got time to have a quick chat about him, Marius?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is a new one on me. I don't know much about this player. Can you expand on it a bit? And what he's like?
He was a striker. Yeah, he was a striker at AZ before as well, and he went to Wolfsburg in Germany. I think this is his second season this year. He scored around 14 goals last season, and I think he's around 15, 16 goals this season already. He's not really the most technical player, but he is really like a lot of work ethic. And based on his work ethic, you can compare a little bit to Dirk Kuyt, a little bit.
Oh, right. Okay.
Regarding work ethic. So, yeah, it's really amazing how he developed, because every time when he came to AZ, I was like, no, he doesn't have the technical ability to play at our team. And then he scored a lot of goals, was second on the top scorers list. Then he went to Wolfsburg, and I was like, nah, that's a little bit too much for him. But then he adapted quickly. He was a starting player in the starting 11 from the start, scored his goals, and he did the same this year. And he played, I think, 2 or 3 games for the Dutch national team as well already.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What kind of player is he? Is he more of a sort of a penalty box striker? Is he good with his head? Is he?
You really need him in the box. Yeah, not outside of the box. You really need him inside of the box.
Yeah, in and around the box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. And
you really have a difficult night as a defender if you have to play him, because it's like always busy, always working, always fighting in a good sense. So he's always putting a lot of energy in the game, and he's not a lazy player at all. And yeah, he's really like, really, really focused to one goal, and that's making the goal.
How old is he?
I think he will be around 25, 26, something like that.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
And what about stature? Is he a tall, big guy? Is he quite, or is he a small, diminutive guy?
Yeah. He's a really tall guy.
He's above 6 foot.
Oh, that's good. That sounds really interesting. So has he actually been
above 6 foot? And his journey is really interesting.
Is he been linked with Arsenal recently then?
Yes, I saw some rumors on the internet. I don't know how true they are.
But I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, James.
No, I just think Marius touched this on his work rate. I think with Weghorst in particular, his journey has been really impressive.
Yeah.
Started out at Emmen, and then went to Heracles, and then to AZ and Spurs. And, now he's ready for that next step. And maybe Marius might agree with me, he might not. But I think he's been criminally overlooked at international level. Mm. If you take the Nations League, for example, when the Netherlands lost to Portugal, in that final, they needed something different. And he could have provided that. So I hope that Koeman has learnt his lesson, and the next time that they meet up, he's in the squad, because he can definitely provide something different.
Yeah, and I know the difficult thing is everybody always doubts him. So whatever level he plays at, for a next step, they always have a little bit of a doubt, because he's not like really the typical striker with a lot of technical ability, the one that you play the ball in his feet and that he will keep it for quite a long time. No, he's not that type of player. But he managed to like perform at every level that he played on until now, and every time he takes a step further and further and further, and he will adapt to that level. And also because of his mentality, he was really focused to improve himself on every level of the game, physically, mentally, technically. So yeah, that's the reason why he keeps maintaining at the levels that he's playing.
Fantastic. Yeah, so he's got a lot of self-confidence. Is he? What's his mentality like actually on the pitch as well? Whilst during a game, is he quite a vocal player as well? With his teammates.
Yeah, you definitely notice that he's here, not only with his teammates but also with the referee, and he's always he's always making war, like we say in the Netherlands, always creating a little bit of a war with his opponents. So and also with his team players, if it's not working well, but in a positive way, trying to get that spark them to just put a little bit of extra into the game, into themselves, just to get that performance or the result out of that you want.
Oh, that sounds really promising. Well, I don't know whether I can take much more of all this good news about Arsenal this week, because apparently Martinelli has signed a new 4-year deal, which is extremely happy about that. We've managed to offload Mkhitaryan as well to get him off the wage bill, which is it's a shame it never worked out with Mkhitaryan, but to get rid of his wage this for the rest of his contract is a big positive for our club. So we can actually move on to pastures new. He's enjoying himself over in Roma, so that's been good as well. James,
if you look at that swap deal, Andrew, now what's happened with Mkhitaryan, wasn't that an awful swap deal? A truly awful swap deal. I remember the first time I saw Alexis Sanchez play. I thought, he looks a tremendous player, and he was quite clearly the best player in our squad at one stage, and because he had a winner's mentality, and he didn't suffer fools, rather than come to his level, rather than go with him, we had a bunch of wimps that were just out for themselves. So rather than go with Sanchez and try to build a winning mentality, they went to Wenger and started moaning about him, and Sanchez was marginalised. And then there comes a swap deal where we didn't get the best player. We lost the best player. And now that player that we got is now kind of fallen by the wayside. And this is what I mean, going back to my earlier point. Arsenal have an opportunity this summer to learn from their mistakes and to think about what they're doing before they spend any money. Think about the characteristics. Think about the previous. Look at a player's journey. Look at a player's injury record. Take all of these things into consideration before handing any money over. And I'll sign off by saying the following. We've spoken about Teun Koopmeiners this evening, about Weghorst. This is a step in the right direction. I'm not saying it because they're Dutch and I live in the Netherlands, and so does Marius. But the characters that these players have are the characters that Arsenal have been missing for far too long. And the fact that Arsenal are linked with these players is a real good sign, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. We have characters in the team, but they are of a negative character, not a positive character. And we need to get rid of all. We need a broom to sweep out our club of all this negativity. And if this is true that we are strongly connected to these players, which it is true that we're connected to these players, but I really hope it's true that we actually take the next step and sign players that have got this type of strong personality that's going to be a positive effect to the team. I totally agree, James. It's what has been missing for more than a few years. I would say probably a decade. It's been missing in the team, and we've made terrible decisions in the market.
A decade, couldn't you really?
Yeah, exactly. So fingers crossed. It has, and I think
negligence is what it is.
I think if we, the recruitment team at Arsenal, if they don't make some positive changes this summer, then they're going to have to be asked some serious questions, and it doesn't seem they have to answer to anyone at the moment, and that has to change, and we need to make some good purchases like these players we've been talking about this evening.
Yeah, exactly. But I worry about that transfer. It's jobs for the boys, isn't it? Jobs for the boys where they fear no ramifications. They are there just to earn their money. They are not there. I mean, I'm not trying to compare AZ and Arsenal in terms of size, but Arsenal would do well to look at what AZ have done, in terms of the young players, giving the young players a chance, buying well as well. AZ have also brought well in recent seasons. And as I say, we have a section of our fans that, unfortunately, they only look at price tag. Very rarely have they seen the player play. I'd like to think tonight, with what we've all spoken about and the points made by all three of us, in particular Marius, that people will understand that Koopmeiners and Weghorst are both excellent players with great character. And we need to come away, even the fans as well, just get away from this name mentality, because the facts remain. We haven't won the league since 2004, and we are at the moment nowhere near. So that needs to be fixed. Hopefully it won't be 30 years like Liverpool, but if we don't get things right, it will be even longer.
Exactly. Well, Ray, you've been making some great comments in the on the feed there. He agrees with you wholeheartedly, James. As well said. I think it's happening already. I really hope so, Ray. He said he loves how Arteta is using our mix of young and old players in new formations. Changing from Wenger was never going to be seamless, and he must be allowed to say who he wants, if not allowing for budget, of course. Yeah, he's got to have a say, Carol is saying, Arteta, in the type of player that he needs to bring in. The best thing I can say is, about 2 years ago, Liverpool finished about 25 points behind Manchester City. The season after, they only finished 1 point behind. The season after that, they obviously have won the league. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Arsenal, but it shows you that it's positive if you sign the correct players for the type of system that you want to play as a manager. And that's critical, to get the right type of personalities and the right pieces for your jigsaw. And not just going after players because they've got a good reputation. You need to choose the right type of player to fit into your team, because it's a team game, not an individual game.
Absolutely. And if I can just elaborate on what you said, Liverpool have an owner that cares. Liverpool has an owner that cares. We don't, do we?
Well,
and that's where it starts.
Not really, no. We need to hope that Arteta can get his Arteta needs to keep going on and changing the mentality within the club as a whole, not just with the players on the team. And from what I hear, that is happening, but he needs to actually make sure that spreads, so that we have got the player that, Raul, Edu, Vinay, who are making these decisions, actually get bought into this journey as well.
Yeah.
Well, I won. I have my doubts. I mean, I will support. I respect the opinion of every Gooner. When you have an owner, it's like anything. If you own anything, if you own a car, or if you own a house, or whatever you own, if you don't look after it, it's not going to be what it could be, is it? If you don't look after it, and if you look what Kroenke's doing with the LA Rams, with their, I think, $1.25 billion stadium, and the LA Rams have got to the Super Bowl final. He's obviously hell bent on success with them, but he's not hell bent on success with us, is he? And that's where I worry a little bit, because it's fantastic to have a good, young, promising manager who's going to try lots of different things. But if your owner is not going to back him, if the owner is not going to invest properly and make sure that he's got the tools to do the job properly, and it could all well be in vain, couldn't it?
But the thing is, we have been backed with lots of money, lots of players, but we've chosen the wrong players. That's the issue. Our buying has been awful, but we've spent a lot of money, James, haven't we? So the owner has backed us, but when I say that, he hasn't actually put his hand in his pocket. We've used our own money that the club has. We're self-sufficient in that case, but he has signed off a lot of expenditure on players, but we've put it into the wrong players. It has changed a little bit now. It has changed a little bit recently. We went after Guendouzi. It looks like it's not worked out, but that was along the right lines. That's the sort of player we should be buying, a young player with a lot of potential. We went after, obviously, Martinelli. That's worked out exceptionally well. We went after Kieran Tierney, who is probably one of the best buys we've made in a long time. And they've got the right character, those three players. However, Guendouzi, like I said, it looks like it's not going to work out. But I don't blame them for buying that type of player. Let's just hope that we're going down the right path. But I think it's only going to get better now under Arteta. I think he's going to actually make sure that he gets the right type of player that he wants. Now, we have spent an awful lot of money. Let's hope we can spend it better.
Yes.
So fingers crossed. Thank you ever so much again. Now, this is the second time we're going to sort of wrap up the show. But once again, Marius, really enjoyed you being on the show. Hope to speak to you again shortly with some more news from your side of in Amsterdam. James, exactly the same. Absolutely delighted that you came on today and really enjoyed speaking to you again. Sorry, it's been a shame that you've had a bit of a difficulty with your connection there. But thanks again for everyone watching as well. Please give us a like on your way out. It would be great if you could give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. Thanks a lot. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, give us tune in every so often, Marius. We pretty much go live every Wednesday. So if you're ever a short, well, it'd be 8 o'clock your time on a Wednesday.
Perfect.
Take care. Take care. Thanks again, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Thanks. Good evening.
Good evening.